you also for organising today's event, which I think hopes to be really, really informative. So very, very quickly, I'm just going to jump into some of the top line trends as we're seeing it through relating to far-right extremism online. Now, towards the beginning of the last decade, around 2013, 2014, analysts started to notice a transformation in the way the extreme right wing were using social media to radicalize and to recruit. They started to adopt new tactics, started to fuse their extremist hateful messaging with internet culture, started to adopt the use of ironic humor, the sorts of things we might associate with gaming platforms and fringe forums, and fuse that with their messaging. Now, I think people originally didn't really know what to do about this, but it really represented a transformation in the extremist use of the internet. Now, if we look at the digital platforms which the extreme right wing use online, they sit on some of the major tech giants: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, now TikTok. But over the past decade, this has really transformed. And there is now a vast ecosystem of fringe social media platforms which the extreme right wing use. Image board forums like 4chan, extremist created platforms such as Gab, which really offer a safe space for extremists to mobilize online. And as we've seen increased effort to moderate against this activity from the major social media platforms, we've seen this increased shift towards a diverse ecosystem of social media entities. Now, the extreme right wing use these for a number of different reasons. On the one hand, they coordinate offline events. They will come together to help plan rallies, such as the Charlottesville riots in 2017, where we saw extremists use the online chat application Discord to plan their activities and strategize their activities in great detail. We also see the extreme right wing broadcast publicity stunts using the massive reach afforded by social media to advance and their ideology and messaging to a diverse audience. So at around the height of the migrant crisis, Generation Identity brought together a pan-European selection of activists and extreme right-wing activists from North America and Canada to take a vessel to the Mediterranean in an attempt to disrupt the migrant flows, live blogging and streaming this activity continually. We also, of course, see social media being used to help advance the most violent ends of right-wing extremism as well. In a number of cases in Europe, North America, and globally, right-wing extremists have announced their attacks on social media, publicizing documents explaining the rationale for this, but also live streaming content and filming their content for a diverse online audience, such as the attack in Halle several years ago, and also the attack in Christchurch, New Zealand. So through ISD, what we have done is build a sophisticated online monitoring system designed to track social media activity of the extreme right wing across this universe of social media platforms, which I've just spoken to. Over the past 5 years, we've built a wide-ranging global repository of right-wing extremist activity, which speaks to trends in the USA, Canada, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, also Germany and France, monitoring tens of thousands of accounts and analyzing millions of messages. Through this monitoring, there are a number of key trends which we've identified, which really, really linked to this online mobilization. So essentially, over the past decade, what we have seen is the absolute wholesale transformation of the extreme right-wing ecosystem and threat. And I think this is intrinsically linked to that completely shifting online landscape and the adoption of new tactics and techniques. What were primarily quite localized, nationally oriented groups have really transformed into very large-scale, tech-savvy, transnational movements, which are able to translate online activity into offline action. Now, this is increasingly becoming hybridized and fused as well with a range of other harms, including disinformation, conspiracy theories, targeted hate, and harassment. So when we talk about right-wing extremism online, we're also talking about a range of other harmful manifestations of activity, which at their core threaten democracy and democratic institutions writ large. Now, through our analysis of this activity on social media, we've isolated a number of key trends, which I think really relate to right-wing extremist mobilization. So, as a result of online coordination and online activity, we have seen an increasingly empowered and violent set of extreme right-wing actors. We've seen a massive surge in violence committed by these acts. And quite often there is a through line from those violent activities to online communities, either in the language used to frame this activity or in the broadcasting of manifesto documents or attacks themselves. We've also seen the mainstreaming of extremism. So the extreme right wing have been able to significantly enlarge their sphere of influence through the use of social media, reaching very expanded audiences, but also allowing them to shape conversation at the heart of politics through the infiltration of nativist, anti-minority talking points. We've also seen this threat become transnational. So extreme right-wing movements, through the use of social media, have been able to adopt a shared cultural, ideological, and tactical tropes, and also coordinate across borders to advance their worldview. Finally, we've seen the emergence of what we call at the Institute post-organizational terrorism, whereby the risk of violence doesn't just come from organized groups, but from loose online communities and individual actors. Now, this poses a number of challenges which will require a really coordinated transnational response and concerted policy efforts. And I hope we'll be able to get to those when we have our Q&A. So thank you very much for allowing me to set the scene here for the conversation today.